Well, welcome in and welcome back. So, this is officially the first show that we've done quite some time. So, welcome back. Well, at least the first show we've done in Kansas in quite some time. If you joined us on Pi Day, which I probably won't soon be living down, that show was on Sunday. But we are back from our vacation. We're here in the roasting laboratory, ready to get back down to business. So we'll get started here very soon. We got Judy 2 here. We're going to continue our exploration or our education into this new roaster and kind of just see what we can figure out as far as getting some different varieties, some different roasting profiles. That would mean, light, medium, dark roasts under our belt so that we can offer a lot of different flavors using this machine. So today is an education day. I'll be doing one roast just to get the feel for how a different variety of bean kind of reacts inside this machine. Taking a lot of notes. Answering any questions that you guys have. You can also tell I've done a little bit of sprucing up in its walls. I still got to work on some of the exhaust, as well as I'm going to get a new table in here. But we are kind of just still upgrading the space in order to accommodate for the new roaster here. So go through that. But first, I do want to go over some coffee experiences that I had while I was in Florida. Definitely had a major impact on the way that I see what it is that I'm doing, not only as a Twitch streamer, but also as a coffee roaster. So I wanted to share some of what I experienced and kind of how it had a big impact on my perspective with you, while also trying out some special coffee that I got while I was there. So let me just get situated here. We'll get started shortly. Okay, so before we get into our roast, let's share a couple of new things. First, we made it to 50 followers while I was in Florida. Shout out to all of you beanheads for following and watching and telling people about it. We've hit the goal of 50 followers. And that has made us an official Twitch affiliate. So what that means is that now Twitch recognizes that we exist. I don't really know all of the language or what it's going to mean as far as Twitch shows goes. I do know it kind of creates a couple of extra bells and whistles. As far as kind of making it seem like the upper end Twitch shows, and that we can have emotes, subscribers, tips, all those different things. What that means for us as a community, I'm not quite sure yet. I have to kind of get into the inner workings of it. I am as fluent of a Twitch speaker as anyone else who's joined us in the last 3 months. So there's a lot of education I have for that. I'll look into it. See if it adds any sort of dynamic to our stream or adds to the overall level. But I'll let you know. And if you know, while you're watching or streaming, if you have any thoughts or ideas about what we should do or where we should go with this now that we are affiliated, go ahead and let me know. Drop that in the chat. We'll try to get that figured out. All right, but before then, let's talk about some things. around on the Twitch. Also, I made a couple of adjustments. Just trying to work those out early on, so bear with me. I did move the microphone around, I did move the camera around a little bit, so hopefully things are going to work a little bit more smoothly. Now that we got some of that going on. So, those of you who don't know, Julie and I, we went to Florida over the weekend. Don't worry, we were safe. Social distancing, masking, everything. In fact, we went into it thinking that Florida was going to be kind of like the Wild West because they've been open probably more than any of the other major states. But I'll be honest with you, I think that's more media driven. Most of the counties required masks. Most had social distancing in place. Nothing different. In fact, they kept asking us, they're like, wow, you guys are coming from the Midwest. It's a lot more shut down there. Is this a huge surprise to you? And I was like, to be honest with you, not a big difference overall. So, not a huge difference. So, we behaved. So, if you're worried about us and our health, we also both are fully vaccinated. Well, I'll be fully vaccinated here in 2 days. But we are good to go on that note. So we went to Florida. It was a really good trip. It was good to get away. But more importantly than just being able to get away, we really came across something pretty cool, and I wanted to tell you about that. We were walking just by a couple of shops. There was a little farmer's market on the island that we were staying at. We saw a building that said coffee roasters. Well, my curiosity was too much. I walked right in, which is, if you know me personally, that's not really what I do. I'm not big into just charging in and asking people I don't know a lot of questions, but it was coffee. So I went in, I told him it was two individuals that were just working in a very small shop. They had a couple of pounds of coffee from different regions, many regions that I've done myself. So I said, hey, I'm a home roaster out of Kansas City. I just wanted to come in and talk to you, see what you were doing. It was almost creepy kind of how they got started. They got started on a 1 kilogram machine, still are roasting on a 1 kilogram machine. We're going to farmers markets, roasting to order while at the farmers markets. So while people were at the farmers market walking around, they would do the roasts for them, and then they moved that into a shop. They started serving coffee in their shop, only serving AeroPress and pour-overs, much like what we've been doing in the labs. Didn't have drip coffee, didn't have espresso, just did AeroPress and pour-overs, as well as still were taking roast to orders and selling a couple of pounds. Me and these individuals, we probably talked for, a good hour, just about coffee, home roasting, kind of their story. And really, I was super inspired because everything that I kind of been thinking about what I want to do and why I want to do it as a roaster, these individuals were also doing it, kind of had a lot of the same thoughts that I did. So, feels good to not feel like I'm alone in the world as far as my roasting goals. They kind of said something funny that I know I've said before as well. They really didn't want to sell coffee. They just wanted to sell beans. Selling beans has led them to selling a little bit of coffee. It just gives people the opportunity to taste their what they're making. But all in all, it was just insane to get a chance to talk with them, share some ideas, kind of share what I was doing, kind of some of their experiences. So it was really, really inspiring for what I'm trying to do here at Fat Beans Coffee Labs. So I purchased some of their freshly roasted beans. This is a Papua New Guinea. It's a medium roast. So just give you a look at what a medium roast entails. So this medium roast is darker brown than a lot of what you've seen me roasted here. It does have some oilier marks on it, which means it's probably right at the end of City Plus Full City. They probably took this right to the point where first crack was going to happen and stop the roast. It gives it a nice even look, an even roasting profile, some of that oil on the outside. It does give it a really intense chocolatey and nutty flavor. on the beans. So there is that. So I wanted to try this out, give you my impressions while the machine is getting warmed up, and then we will start the roasting. We are going to roast the Burundi that I bought a 5-pound bag of. Looking to get that all tweaked in, start getting it back to kind of where it was on Judy 1. So we'll do a quick tasting of the new the coffee that was done by my friends in Isla Madora. So check them out, Isla Madora Coffee Roasters on Instagram. They also have a website. If you're ever in the Keys, look them up. So it's going to be just quick brewing up some of what they provided for me. This is a Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea, if you don't know, is a small set of islands by Australia. It does have some highlands and is known for some pretty decent coffee. They did take this a medium roast, which does give it a chocolate, nutty, and spicy flavor. Those of you worried about me being able to sleep, I am happily on spring break right now. Try not to let too much of your envy come through the chat. After what has been a up and down year, it's nice to get a little designated break. In fact, this further than we made it last year, so we're trending the right way as far as getting an entire school year done. Okay, so just did a quick AeroPress, and one of the most impressive things about what these individuals were doing was they were running a shop. I mean, when I was in there for an hour. They probably made 15 to 20 cups of coffee for people, sold a couple of pound bags. But that's all they were doing. They were just doing AeroPress. They were just doing pour over, and people were eating it up. It was because they were getting the chance to taste locally roasted, fresh roasted coffee. Many people were commenting it was some of the best coffee they'd ever had. And it was because, again, very few people get the opportunity to really taste many single origin varieties as well as get to taste fresh roasted. Also, they kind of feel disconnected at the roasting side of it. They're always, when you go to Starbucks, even when you go to coffee shops, the coffee that you get, you really don't have a say over. But being able to say, I'd like to try this type or that type or this type or this flavor or this roast, it really was resonating with those people there. And I think that is kind of where, if I ever see this going beyond me just roasting coffee for myself in my basement, it was very inspirational. It makes me want to really get after it and start doing a couple of different roasting profiles down here and letting more and more people try it, because it wasn't just that these people were able to, they were constantly growing their business. It was more that the people were really excited to have and try their coffee, and I thought that was really, really cool. So first impression I get is the nutty really stands out here. It's almost like a real rich walnut, which is playing off the bitter taste. Also the spicy and the chocolatey is going to come with the bitter as well. A little bit more towards the medium side than I generally like to drink, but with a little bit of cream, this would make for a really robust, almost dessert-like cup of coffee. All in all, delicious. So what they're doing is, I mean, it's not very different from what I'm doing. In fact, machine they're roasting on is a fluid bed roaster, 1 kilogram, very very low tech, even compared to Old Judy 2 here. So they're processing coffee at like they were doing a lot of coffee. Now, granted, they were cooks by nature or cooks by trade, so this is their full-time job. They're roasting all day long in their shop. Then they're going to farmers markets on the weekend. But it's not that you need a huge commercial roaster. In fact, their business was growing by leaps and bounds, and they said they didn't really have much intention to move from their small roaster. They liked that they could take it to the coffee shops. They liked that they could kind of keep the batches very small, even continue to do roast to orders for people. So all these things really inspirational as far as what I'm trying to do. It's kind of cool to see people actually out there making it work. So anyway, as I mentioned before, it'll be a quick roast. I'm just trying to get back into it. It's been a week since I've done any roasting or done a roast show. If you have any questions for me, feel free. Just going to fire it up. Continue to work on getting my sound figured out down here, getting my cameras all figured out now that we have this new roaster. This is an Aleo Bullet roaster, 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds. It is kind of the Cadillac of home roasters, simply for the amount of information that you can get while roasting. It is kind of a mix between old school and new school on a computer, and it really gives me the opportunity to see a lot of the variables, the real science of roasting. It still gives me a lot of the essences of the art of roasting, and more importantly, it gives me the repeatability. So if I do find something that I say, this is a good roast, I want to do this over and over again, this machine is designed to be able to do things over and over. But first, the real trick is getting it to the point where I'm comfortable about all of the different readings, kind of how a roast goes through, difference between roasting light, medium, dark, and then the constant tweaking that any good roaster does year after year after year, trying to get the flavors better and better. You don't want a roaster that just locks in their flavor and never changes. Roasting, like anything else, should be a constant journey. You should be constantly changing up, because your personal profiles change, your customers' profiles change, and coffee isn't about finding the best and then sticking with it for a lifetime. It's about an experience. So people are constantly wanting different flavors and different experiences. So that's kind of what this machine should allow me to do on a very small scale, and also should be a really good opportunity to learn. And you guys can kind of learn right along here with me. So we're going to just wait for it to get, it's just trying to stabilize between the outside temperature and inside temperature. When it starts to blink charge, it's when the machine essentially says that it's balanced out, which while I was saying it, there it went. So we'll quick do some other variable controls in the form of weighing out our green beans. We're going to do a pound of green because that's what I've been doing. On Friday's show, I am going to try to do smaller batches. Just that is kind of a different approach with this machine, but I also want to be able to do smaller batches on here if need be. Trying to figure out every little nuance that this machine has to offer. Go. That is a pound of green. We are doing a Burundi. The Burundi is honey, raw sugar, hints of apple, clove, allspice, lemongrass aroma, orange spice, black tea. Medium roast develops with dark chocolate berry note, good for espresso. So what we're going to do is we are going to try to get this at a city plus to full city. Medium roast is kind of what that's been drinking the most pleasurable for me, and also for people around me that I've been sharing it with. So that's what we're going to try to replicate. We can't get a good medium roast on here. Had a good cup of Joe on the road, the road to Great Bend. Light shot of half and half, Ethiopian, I believe. Was it, who made it? Like, do you know the particular roaster? Okay, so we got it in. Upside down fat beans. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're finding a good way to enjoy those beans. Glad you're having a good experience with those. That's what it's all about. All right, so this Burundi, we're going to try to manipulate it a little bit different than we went about the Ethiopian. Specifically, we want the roast to be about the same speed. So a lot of the setup, we're going to track very, very similar to how we've been doing the Ethiopian. Where we're going to make this different is we're going to, once we start getting about the first crack, we're going to cut back the heat a little bit. We're going to try to lengthen the development time, and we're also going to let it go a little bit past first crack than we would have with the Ethiopian in an effort to try to go a little bit more medium, get some of the more chocolatey flavors in here. So that's the goal, at least. So I've taken some notes if you're looking at what I'm looking at. And I just did some development notes. This is kind of a recipe that I've written down. It just tells me where the bean temperature should be at. And that is going to kind of tell me when I start manipulating my times, my fans, all those different things. So right now we're trying to dry the beans out, trying to get to the yellowing phase. And we're really trying to bring it up to 120 degrees Celsius. That's when I'm going to start making some manipulations to it. I did change everything around here, so beans into dreams. How's it going, the guy on fire? Nice to see you. Yep, try and use a little bit of a variable control to make a medium roast Burundi tonight. So, beans and the greens. Give you a look. We're right now just trying to dry it out. That means we're trying to get as much water out of it as possible. And really, we're just trying to get the bean temperature to about 200 degrees Celsius to get to the first crack. But right now, we've reached 120. I'm just going to walk down the overall temperature a little bit. The guy on fire, thanks for the follow. We do coffee roasting here mainly. We also do some coffee brewing on the weekends. We do all things coffee and really anything else. So if you got any questions about coffee or coffee drinking or really life, feel free to let me know. Or just sit back and let the hypnotic machine lull you to sleep. Right there, we're going to call this our yellowing point. So we'll make a note in our program here that the beans have reached yellow. And what that means is that from here on out, the beans are starting to roast. The scent profile is kind of like bread, cooked bread. It is pretty intense, and you can tell by our exhaust, a lot of water vapor is starting to come off the beans. So we'll kick our fan on there. Okay, just following our recipe here. Once we get to about 165 degrees Celsius, we'll kick it down, the power down. We're slowly walking the power down in order to get a nice flattening curve. They're starting to cinnamon up. It's a little bit of a juniper scent at this. There's that for you. About 156. And once we get to 165, we'll move the power down a little bit. And in an effort to get to about 200 degrees Celsius, at about 200 degrees Celsius, we'll reach what's called first crack. Okay. We're at about 165 degrees Celsius. You'll notice getting some good browning. This is where some of the earlier flavors are being developed. Some of the sugars begin to caramelize, give it that nice brown color. We'll just walk it down one more. Power setting. Really trying to prolong just a little bit, since we are taking this to a medium. If this was a light roast, we may want to speed up the roasting process a little bit faster, but since we're going with medium, we want to stretch the roast out just a bit further. What we're looking for is about 9 minutes for that first crack to happen. Then we will turn around and do 25% of the overall roast for what's called development time. Development time just means time spent after first crack. This is where roasting profiles can go from light, medium, dark, or as the industry would call it, city plus, full city plus, and then you get into your really dark roast like Vienna French, charcoal, however you want to call it like that. Just give you a look. There they are. They should be hitting first crack. About another minute. Get some early pops in here. There's first crack. And now we just want to let this develop for about 25%. Felt very chappy, but looking good. This little spoon just allows me to kind of see inside the roaster. That's about 20%. Notice I've been kind of fluctuating between power, going between P4 and P6 and P5. This is because we just want to make sure we have just enough power to bring the roast home. I think that's what we are going to be able to do. That's 25% of the roast. Just the cooling. Okay, so nice, slow roasted, mild Burundi. Very even, very good looking roast. A little bit light. Overall, not bad. To look at what the ending weight is. Somewhat of an idea of how much. Gonna need a bigger bowl. So what weighing the beans is going to do for us? It's going to give us a good idea of the finishing weight. So the starting weight was a pound. We want to have lost somewhere between 13 and 14%. That is going to be in the water weight. So it's at 8.48 ounces, which it was, it's 0.8 pounds. Let's see what that is in ounces. So it's at 13.58. So it was at 16. Now it's at 13.58. Probably could have lost a little bit more. So one concern I had about this initial roast was a little bit slower. Started losing a lot of power at its apex, so that was kind of a concern. We might want to make sure we bump up the power a little bit as we go on. Don't think we were providing the roast with enough juice. So I'm going to make a couple of notes when I do this Burundi again. I'm going to really want to focus on getting a little bit more power on in the early phases. Because what seemed to happen is it kind of ran out of steam towards the end. Still good looking, very even, but my concern is maybe took a little bit too long to get to where we wanted to go. So yeah, just by biting the beans, not really thrilled. So we'll see when it gets to the cup, but that's what being down here is all about. And especially these early phases, is to really learn. So one thing I learned is maybe you got a little bit too weren't aggressive enough on the power to get this thing. It kind of ran out of steam right when we get the first crack. So it's really going to be important that I bump the juice up early on, maybe even kick the preheating. So nice thing about this is I can go back, check the roast logs, and really get an idea of where things might have gone wrong, what sort of adjustments I could have made. So, all part of the learning. Full disclosure, probably not going to be a great cup. We'll see. Give it a taste. I will give you a full report on that the next time we meet down here in the roasting laboratory. But, for now, it is good just to be back in, be kind of doing a couple of things down here again. Like I said, we have made it to the first checkpoint of roasting. In that we have cleared the hurdle of becoming an affiliate. So that is good, simply in the fact that we are growing. Again, I don't know what that means long term. I still have a lot to learn about Twitch, but it's kind of unique learning. So while I'm learning this, I'm also getting to learn something new in the form of streaming. So that's been kind of cool. So we will be back here on Friday, roasting again. We're doing a couple more experiments before, really getting in and starting to do a ton of production base. So more experimental roasting on Friday. So be here, because I will. It was good seeing everybody. I'm glad that JMCD is enjoying the upside down fat beans that I roasted him. Just let me know if you need any more. The Guy on Fire, thanks for the follow, and we will be back here on Friday. So, As always, stay caffeinated. I will see you next time.